Hello, you guys. Good morning. I hope everybody's doing okay today. I wanted to come talk to you guys for a little while I'm sitting on this heating pad. I've been up since early this morning, but I got to get on this day on heating pad because I don't think this kidney stone is gone yet, and it is like a little sore. So I'm trying to get a hold of that before the pain becomes too sore for me, but. Normally the heating pad, once I put it on there for a little while, it will help, and then that soreness will go away until I'm finished working for the day. And I think it's probably because I'm sitting up, working, so that's probably why it's creating like that pain in that area. So I probably will try to go and take a walk like a little bit later, but I wanted to come talk to you guys right now while I am putting this heating pad on to try to deal with a little bit of this soreness that I have. So today, my main topic that I want to talk to you guys about, I want to talk to you guys a little bit more about the David updates that came out yesterday. It was some more things that I watched through to the initial press conference, but I kind of didn't watch for more details after that. So there was some paperwork drop, and there was some more details that were given for that. So I want to talk about that. But before I talk about the David situation with you guys, it was two things yesterday that I wanted to talk to you guys about. And one of them was a out of California, and it was called Operation Bear Claw. Okay. So Operation Bear Claw was a scheme that it was an auto insurance scheme, right? And the shoot, you guys, hold on 1 second. It was an auto insurance scheme where four individuals were involved. This was in California. Four individuals were involved in this in Los Angeles area. And what they did was they had one. It was, I think it was a total. They don't say who the fourth person was, whether it was male or female, but there are two men and one woman who already pled guilty to the charges in the scheme, right? But the other person, it's not identifying them as male or female, and I cannot find any reports of the names of these individuals either. But this is something that has like been reported all over social media. You can find all kinds of news articles on it. It just doesn't list the names of the individuals. So what they did in this Operation Bear Claw, this was the name that was given to it by the detectives, and it is known as the California Auto Insurance Scheme, where these individuals had one person dress up in this bear costume and basically like ransack and wreck these automobiles. So there were three cars involved. I'm assuming since it's three individuals who already pled guilty, that maybe they were the ones who were the owners of the vehicles, I'm assuming. And then the other one might be the one who wore the bear suit. I don't know. I find it maybe the one who wore the bear suit is pleaded not guilty, because the reason why this person hasn't been sentenced yet is because they pleaded not guilty. They're going to trial. And maybe they plead not guilty because maybe they don't want to be, I don't know if they're trying to give them a harsher penalty or what, because I don't have that many details on it. But I thought this was something really interesting to talk to you guys about, to see what you guys think. So basically, I guess, like I said, the other three individuals, I guess maybe they were the owners of the vehicles. It was one Rolls Royce and two Mercedes Benz, right? And so this other individual dresses up in this bear suit and basically like destroys the car. But initially, I thought, when I first saw it on social media, before I started to like research the actual news reports, I thought that the bear supposedly like attacked the outside of the vehicle. No, the bear, they say they had video of the human bear opening up the car and then like destroying the inside of the vehicle. And so they got caught. There was video footage. The video footage, I guess, was turned in, and I guess they naively turned it in. in order for them to get reimbursed for the damage. And so they naively turned it in, I guess, assuming that the video was going to show this thing that looks like a bear and they're going to get over on it. Well, I guess once the video was turned in, I guess it looked suspicious. So they had what the police department had done, or I guess maybe the insurance company referred it to the police after they watched the video to assess the damages and confirm whatever happened. Well, the police called in the California Department of Fish and Wildlife in order for them to take a look at the footage, and they determined this is not a bear, this is a human being. And so they, I guess, went and put arrest warrants or a search warrant, and at one of the individuals' houses, they find this bear costume. So the incident happened in 2024. Three of the individuals, they pled guilty. They have only two of the individuals have to pay a $50,000 restitution. I don't know why that is. That it says that there was a total of $142,000 worth of claim paid out, but only two of the individuals are being required to pay restitution. It doesn't say whether it's the two men or one of the men and the woman, but there's one woman and two men who've already pled guilty. In addition to the restitution, they had to do 180 days in jail. So I thought that was an interesting story to tell you guys about a scam that went on, auto insurance scam that they tried out here. I guess they thought they're going to get it on video. It won't be too much questions. But the California police, the LAPD, they were smarter than that. Now, what they said is that there had been a whole lot of series of bear attacks and vehicles going in people's pools, messing up people's property. And so I guess that's why these people thought that they could get away with it and it would be believable. But no, they caught them, and they caught them, one of them red-handed with the bear suit in their home. So I thought that was an interesting little story to tell you guys and see what you guys think about it. So the next thing I want to talk about is Bruce Caitlyn Jenner. Okay, so for anyone who's not familiar with Kim Kardashian and Kris Jenner, Bruce Jenner is Kris Jenner's ex-husband. He was also a Olympic champion, I believe, in track and field. I believe it was somewhere. I remember when I used to watch him when I was younger. I used to love watching him too when I was younger. But anyway, so Bruce, we all know that there was on Keeping Up with the Kardashians. They followed him in his journey to transition from male to female, right? And so it was this big deal made about it. It was this big fallout with the Kardashians. Some of the Kardashians were still talking to him. Some of them weren't. The older Kardashian girls, well, because the other ones are Jenner. So Kylie and Kendall are Jenners. They are Bruce's children. And then Kim, Courtney, Khloe, and Rob are all Kardashians. So they're Robert Kardashian's children, who was O.J. Simpson's, one of his really good friends, and he was part of his legal team during the O.J. Simpson trial, the first one. And so the two younger ones were his children, but there was a mix. It was a mix. Some of the kids were talking to him because Bruce raised, basically Rob and Khloe, he kind of raised them. Their dad passed away. I can't remember how old Khloe and Rob were at that time, but Bruce had a lot of influence with Rob and Khloe. He was close with Kim and Courtney, but he was really more like a dad to Khloe and Rob because of the timing of their dad's death. And so he had a really good relationship with them. And then, of course, he had his two young girls. And Bruce has other children that don't belong to Kris. But this was like the core group in their home. And so on the show, you saw as he was transitioning, some of the kids were talking to him. Some of them were. Chloe was very upset, but she was trying to be understanding. I think Chloe's main thing was how this was hurting her mother. There was a lot of speculation because people were saying, well, Chris Ben knew he was doing this, and why is she nailed in the public? Hey, Miller, how you doing, boo? Right now, I'm starting off. I talked about one thing, and you can go back and listen to that like after I'm done. But right now, I'm about to talk about Bruce Caitlyn Jenner. Okay, and then I'm going to talk about the David situation and some additional things that happened yesterday. After I finished watching the press conference and then I came live, there was some more things that came about. So, but right now I'm talking about a situation with Bruce. So I'm just giving a brief recap for those people who don't know who Bruce Jenner is, right? So, during the transition, like I said, of course, they show everything on TV. Everything is reality. Everything is content. So, I think that Chloe was having more of a difficult time because she felt like her mother was so hurt behind it, or at least that's what was being shown on the show. And so Chloe was trying to be understanding with Bruce. Hey, one Pap, how you doing, boo? Chloe was trying to be understanding with Bruce slash Caitlyn Jenner, but I think she was still upset because of how her mom was being impacted. Courtney kind of didn't want to touch it or didn't want nothing to do with it because she kind of did not want her kids around. She was like, it was too difficult for her kids to understand calling Bruce slash Caitlyn grandpa to now what do you call him now? And so Courtney had kind of like made a distance between her and Bruce at the time that this was going on because she did not know how to explain this to her kids. She did not want to explain this to her kids. And so she had kind of distanced herself. Kim Kardashian, she kind of embraced it, and she went along this public journey with Caitlyn, was teaching Caitlyn how to get clothes and all of these different types of things. And then you had Kendall and Kylie, who was still like a little bashful and not really wanting to talk about it. This was their dad. I think it was way more sensitive for them because this was their actual biological father, right? And so, anyway, I said all of that just to say, just so that people could understand what I'm about to talk about next. So, Caitlyn slash Bruce Jenner is a Donald Trump supporter. And Caitlyn was very public about the support of Donald Trump. She went on pieces of the campaign trail with Donald Trump. I mean, she's been good friends with Donald Trump from the time she was a he to the time she transitioned to a she. And so she was all in support of Donald Trump. Well, recently she did an interview with Tomi Lahren. Tomi Lahren, I think that's how you say her last name. Tomi Lahren was a really controversial in the beginning, like in the like around the 2015, in between that time, was a very controversial, quote unquote, conservative talk show host. I think that she initially was like non-traditional media and then some kind of way got on like mainstream media or something. But she was kind of like a Candace Owens, right? But a white woman, right? So Caitlyn goes on to this show to have this interview with Tomi Lahren. And she's explaining that she's upset because she sent off to get her passport and she filled out all of the documentation and put everything in there right. You know, you send it off because she sent to have it renewed. So she was initially, I guess, issued a new passport that identified her as female on the passport. So when she went to go renew the passport for this time around, she sent all the documentations in. She sent this revised birth certificate that has her documented as female. And then when she gets the passport back from in the mail, it's listed male in the gender section. So he explains that she sends it back because she's thinking maybe this is an error. So let me send it back. And whenever something is wrong, when you are renewing your passport, you are supposed to highlight what needs to be corrected. So she followed all of the steps in order to make sure that they knew to correct this particular area. Well, they sent it back to her and didn't correct it. Exactly, Pat. Exactly. They sent it back to her and did not correct the gender again. So, and so while she's talking to Tommy Laren, she's explaining that the first time she decided to send it back, she was like, I could have just called Trump. I got his personal number, but I didn't call him because I wanted to follow the steps like everyone else. So that was the reasoning and why they initially she sent it back instead of trying to call in a favor. Well, the sending back didn't work. They still sent it back to her with the gender listed as male. And so she decides now she wants to try to get a hold of Trump. So she went to Mar-a-Lago, and I guess Trump's always in Mar-a-Lago. They call that the summer White House. They are probably more than they are in the White House, especially Melania, right? So Caitlyn is at Mar-a-Lago and thinking maybe I'll see Trump there, while I'm there. And so I think that Trump was there on the premise, but for some reason, Caitlyn could not get access to Trump. So Caitlyn decided to write a letter, and the security guaranteed her that they would get this letter to Trump. Well, as of last week, Caitlyn still hadn't heard nothing back from Donald Trump. And she is pissed and wanting to know what is going on, because this is impacting too many people, not just her, but this is an issue that impacts too many people outside of her, and this needs to be fixed. And while I'm sitting listening to this shit, I'm like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. Like, this man let you know what he was going to do when it came to transgenders. And you voted for him anyway. And now you think you're going to hold his feet to the fire about an issue that he cares nothing about? Something that he cares nothing about supporting? If your passport came back that way, it came back that way because of changes that his administration made. That's why he's ignoring your ass. That's why he's not reaching back out to you or accepting your phone calls, because he don't give a damn. This is part of his agenda and his administration's agenda. And for the life of me, I do not understand these people who voted for Trump who act so surprised at all the bullshit that this nigga does. I don't. Like, for them to sit there and pretend like, well, I didn't know, and he said he was going to do all of those things. What are you shocked about? What are you shocked about? Just take your passport, with the gender checked off as male. Hopefully, when you take your ass to the airport, just arrive early. You maybe need to arrive 5 to 6, 7 hours early and do whatever process you need to do. Why are you complaining about it? You voted for this man. Deal with this shit. Nobody wants to hear this fucking whining and complaining. Those of us who tried to tell y'all went and voted for this man anyway. You are not exactly. Trump don't care nothing about that. He cares nothing about that. This was part of his administration's agenda. He said it in the State of the Union. There's only 2 genders, male and female. What part of that message did Caitlyn not get? He's been saying it. He's been saying it before he was reelected. He said it before he was elected the first time. You decided to be his bosom buddy and go on a campaign trail with him with your skirt on, campaigning for him. So guess what? Just take your male, your male selected passport, get to the airport early and deal with the shit. We don't want to fucking hear it. We are so tired of hearing the people who went and punched a ticket for Donald Trump complaining about Donald Trump. We don't want to hear this shit no more. We are sick of him. We got to deal with him because of decisions y'all made. We don't want to hear it. It's over with. It's over with. Take your passport that got mail on it and figure it out. Maybe you're going to have to dress as a man when you go to the airport. And then when you get to whatever country you're going to, go back to being a woman. And then when you got to get back on the plane, you got to make sure you dress as a man again. And then when you get back home, then you go back. I don't know what to tell you what to do, but we don't want to hear the shit. We don't want to hear it. It's over with. It is over with, Caitlyn. We don't want to hear it. You're going to be Bruce when you go to get on that plane. You can be Caitlyn while you away. Then you're going to be Bruce when you go to get back on that plane. And then you can come back here and commence to being Caitlyn. But we don't want to hear none of your complaining. We don't want to hear none of your lobbying. No, we're not coming to help you. No, we're not coming to protest with you. We don't care. We do not give a damn. Okay? So that's that on that. So my last subject that I wanted to talk to you guys about, I wanted to talk about some more David Burke updates. So it's hard for me to say D4VD. I don't like saying that. So I call him David. That's the name his mama gave him. That's what I'm gonna call him, right? So I call him David, and his last name is his whole name is David Anthony Burke. And we know he was arrested last week for the unaliving of Celeste Rivas Hernandez. And her body had been found inside of his Tesla, in the front of his Tesla, because the Teslas don't have a trunk. Their compartment is located in the front of the vehicle, so they call it a frunk. And so her body was located in there back in September of 2025. And he was just arrested last Thursday. And so he got yesterday, the charges were entered, and murder is on the list of charges. So we have three main components in the charges against David. We have murder, molestation, and mutilation, right? Those are the three things. Those are the three counts. And so I watched several different content creators, and for most of them, they were able to look at the content of how the charge document was and be able to, a lot of the legal analysts that I watch, they are basically looking at the way that it's written up and saying like he's done. Because to me, I feel like the charges tell their own story, right? And this is my opinion. And I said this yesterday when I first came on after I watched the press conference, but I watched some more legal analysts yesterday and other lay people, other different types of experts in different fields related to crime. I watched yesterday, and they were kind of coming up with the same consensus as me. I felt like that based off of the charge document yesterday, based off of the press conference yesterday, that this detective work and this on the work of the prosecutor, that they got what they need. Like they got this airtight. Now I saw just a little, and it agitated me, but I saw a few content creators trying to make it seem like, oh, they didn't tell us nothing. Oh, they don't have no case. They don't really got nothing. Oh, they just did this. Oh, they making this political. Listen, I don't know what. Sometimes I be feeling like I'm in the Twilight Zone when I be listening to certain people talk. And I don't know if they doing this intentionally on purpose, or if they really in their mind just can't follow like what's happening. They just missing what they are laying down, right? They not picking up what's being laid down, right? So there is over 40 terabytes of forensic evidence. I believe that's how much they said it was. Wait a minute, let me double check. I think they said over 40 terabytes of forensic evidence that needs to be reviewed. So as I said yesterday, in the hearing, David's lawyers were asking for a preliminary hearing right away. They were trying to see at the time if they could get it on the calendar for April the 23rd. But then when the prosecutor said that they had over 40 terabytes of evidence, and I'm just trying to make sure, I thought I put it down somewhere how much it was. But I was saying it off of the top of my head. Hold on one second, you guys, because I thought I had put it down. Maybe I didn't, or maybe I put it down somewhere, because I got notes everywhere because I was trying to document what they were saying. But I think they said that they had over 40 terabytes of forensic evidence. And so that was a lot for them to go through. Anybody who can understand that volume, they can understand why it took them so long um to come to this point, because you have all of this evidence that you need to sift through. And so when they said that, I think they decided to settle on with doing a date within the next 60 days. I guess they are waiting for the grand jury information to be released because, oh yeah, 40, okay, yes, 40 terabytes. That's what I thought they said, Mel. Okay, yeah. So I guess they're waiting for the grand jury information to be released to the defense team, and they're waiting for the coroner's report to be released because that was under seal as well. There are several things that need to be done. There are procedural things that David's defense team needs to do in order to get certain things. Because yesterday his defense team was trying to present it as if, oh, well, they haven't turned over to us X, Y, and Z. And the prosecutor got them together real quick. Silverman, I think that's her last name. She's the lead on this case, the prosecutor, Beth Silverman. She got them together real quick and was like, you know the drill, you know the procedure, you have to put in a motion to get this. But of course, they wanted to throw like a little shade, like they weren't being transparent, because they know that the public likes to hear this type of bullshit, to try to make the government look like they doing something nefarious. So they're gonna throw something on them to make it look like they doing something nefarious by keeping certain information from them. Beth was like, no, you know what you got to do. You got to put that motion in. Once you put that motion in, we'll hand over whatever it is. You will be glad. We'll be glad. They even said they would be glad to go to preliminary hearing on April the 23rd. The prosecutor said that. Now, but when it came to releasing all of the information, I think that's what put a halt to that. That was just unrealistic, right? So I think they agreed to set a date once those motions get filed and they can get some more understanding of the evidence and more familiar with the evidence to go to a preliminary hearing. So in the preliminary hearing, we will, just like with the Jarvis Butts on the Naziah Harris case, similar, same thing. We're going to see. We are going to get to see some of the evidence. We are not going to get to see all the evidence, but we are going to get to see enough of the evidence to compel the judge to move forward with the indictment. I believe I'm saying that right. Move forward with the case. If it's not move forward with the indictment, it's to move forward with the case, right? And so we're going to get to see some of the evidence in the preliminary hearing. It probably will not be nowhere near all of the evidence. But yesterday, there was no expectation for evidence to be shown. It was to charge him. That's what yesterday was about. And so when I heard some content creators say, they still not telling us nothing. They not saying nothing more than what we speculated before. Why they didn't say they don't have this together. They don't got nothing. They not going to be able to get a conviction. Yesterday was to charge him. And based on the charges and how I saw the flow, I think these prosecutors got it hit the nail on the head based on what I'm seeing. I could be wrong, but I'm almost pretty certain. So I want to go back because it's some things I want to kind of talk about that I didn't talk about yesterday. So for those who don't know, David Anthony Burke, he's 21 years old now. So at the time that he met Celeste, they are some on web sleuths and in Reddit, right? Some of the web sleuths and then in Reddit posts, they believe that David and Celeste met in 2022 in Discord, right? Inside of these chat groups. Now, according to the charges, there is something unique. I'm almost certain that she didn't start maybe a sexual relationship with him until 2023. You said the prosecutors gave the defense a help and told her ma'am, you're gonna need some time to go through all this discovery. I don't think you exactly. She had to tell her. Like she told her, she's like, I'll be more than glad. I will be more than glad to hand over all of this to you and we can have a hearing on the 23rd. But I don't think you want to do that. Exactly, Miller. Like she checked her real quick, right? She toned that. David's lawyer toned it down after that. Like because they were trying to sound so confident. He didn't do this. And I know that's their job. They supposed to maintain that. But like I said, they play this little game. The defense plays this little game because they know that it appeals to the public. But that Silverman, she got them right together yesterday. Like, no, we will be more than happy to present our case. So the allegations were that David and Celeste met in 2022, which means that Celeste would have been somewhere between 12 and 13 years old when they first met in the Discord. It seems as though they did not have a first meeting though until 2023. And the reason that I say that is because the charges, we're gonna go like a little bit out of order and how the charges are listed on the charge document. We're gonna talk first about the molestation because I want to talk about that first so we can look at it in the order in which stuff takes place. So at the time, David had to be about like 18 years old, and she must have been somewhere between like 12 and 13, either already turned 13 or almost getting ready to turn 13. And so during 2023, Celeste ran away 3 times. 3 separate times, but they were a month apart from one another. The first 2 times, it doesn't say how long she was missing. She did return. What is being speculated is that all of the time she ran away, she was with David. And she was doing social media posts with him, going online into these online groups and chats and doing content with him on Discord and on Twitch. And I'm not sure if it was on other sites, but at least those 2. She was doing content with him there. The mother reported her missing, right? Every time. All 3 times the mother reported her missing. Like I said, 2 other times she comes back in less than a month apart from each other. But then I think it was February, March, and April she ran away, right? Of 2024. Okay, so hold on. She was reported missing from September 2023. Miller, if I'm saying this wrong, get me right, okay? Because this is what I picked up from one of my notes from the charge document. She was reported missing from the last time she was reported, was April of 2024. Hey, Dakisha, how are you? She was reported missing then. So, that's the last time she was reported missing, was April of 2024. So she is doing all of this content with him. They know that she's alive because they said after the April of 2024, she didn't return. But they saw signs of life. You said, how did they even meet? He's such older. They met inside of Discord. So in a gaming chat room. And that's why because yesterday I talked about the 764 network that is on the FBI list. And there was some conversation within the different groups, true crime community, about whether or not David had this connection to the 764 network, right? And there are some things about this crime that they did release that make me wonder, is this another sign? David referred to himself as a nihilist, right? So, and yesterday I explained to everybody that doesn't know that a nihilist is someone who just like doesn't really find any meaning in life. They don't see the need for morals. They don't understand the need for knowledge. They just think that existence just means nothing, right? And so they believe that once you leave this earth, you go into nothingness. It's like complete annihilation, right? And so David was a part of this group on the internet that considered themselves, he called himself a borderline nihilist. Okay, nihilist, whichever way you want to say it, nihilist, right? So he called himself borderline. Hey, Queen. Okay, that's what I thought. I thought this was you, Queen Keish. Okay. So, lengthy sentence might not stop there, Queen Keish. He could possibly get the death penalty for these charges, right? Now, Governor Gavin Newsom has issued a stay on the death penalty. But if the new governor, if California gets a new governor, David could be eligible for the death penalty depending on how this lead prosecutor goes with the case. And when his time come, if it's a new governor, he might end up getting it, right? And based on how the charges of this crime are laid out, I think that's what they are going for. I think they are going to go for the death penalty. Either they're going for it or they want to use that to get him to take a plea and not have to go through a trial, right? So now let me go back. So like I said, she ran away a total of 3 times, right? The last time she didn't come back, according to what we have documented, right? Or at least I don't know if the mother didn't report that she returned. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute, of why it might be some ambiguity with that, right? So, but one thing I want to be clear, and I said this yesterday, Celeste's mother, her country of origin is El Salvador, okay? Celeste is a United States citizen, but the status of her mother is not clear. The status of some of her other family members is not quite clear, right? The immigration status. And right now, and I'm saying this for a particular reason, right? Because everybody is bashing the parents and wondering where were the parents. And I'm somewhat concerned about that. There was some reporting that was coming out during the months that she was missing prior to him being charged, with people feeling like the parents did not do things in an aggressive manner in order to get her back. But I happen to think that this may have something to do with the immigration status. You said, was he aware of her age, and why would be abandoning the car knowing her dead body was in there? From what I understand, yes, he was very well aware of her age. Because there was a video recording that he had taken off of the internet with one time they were streaming. And he was telling her that he's media trained her well, right? On this live that they are on, I believe this was on a Twitch live. On this live that they were on, can I speak on Ashley and Janae and Joe? I am going to speak about that, Queen Keish. I'm going to speak about that later. I need to do some more looking into that, and I'm trying to wait for a little bit more before I jump to a conclusion when it comes to that situation. I know what I instinctively think, but I'm trying to wait for a little bit more before I jump to a conclusion, right, about it. So that's why I haven't talked. You said you believed in the mother didn't know where she was. She was traveling the world with him. Yet she was going various places with him, but there was reporting, Queen Keish, that Celeste's mother knew where she was, that she knew that she was with David. I don't know if there were attempts to to try to keep her from being able to confiscate her daughter, for lack of a better word. You said you are actually right. Her fans are afraid of immigrants. Exactly. That's what I'm saying, Miller. That's what I'm trying to get people to understand. And during the time that she goes missing, you got to remember, these people are heavy on immigration. Trump is coming in, and this is the thing I want so many people to understand, because I said this during election season. when everybody is saying illegal, right? What Trump is saying, Trump knows that you don't understand what he's saying when he's saying illegal. He knows that. That's how he was able to trick everybody by using the term illegal, right? It's just like substituting born and naturalized in the United States, right? It's a buzzword. It means something else. There's another connotation attached to it. So when Trump is saying illegal, he's not just talking about people who walked over the border or who were smuggled into the country or who did not go through the asylum process. Trump is talking about, hey, Purple, how you doing, boo? Trump is talking about anybody that he deems is in this country that came from another country that he don't think should be here. He's talking about anybody who was born in this country but don't look like him, that looks like some other descent that shouldn't be here. He's talking about anybody, any child that was a child of an immigrant that came from another country but was born here. That's who he's talking about. That's who he's talking about. That's what he's talking about when he says illegal. When he starts saying illegal, he might be talking about me and you. That's the whole point I'm trying to get down to. He might deem me and you illegal, right? But he knows you don't understand that that's what he means. And he knows that, especially minorities, when he says illegal, think that he's talking about people who got smuggled into this country, people who came over here without any paperwork. And that it is a difference between someone who is illegal, there is somebody who is undocumented, and somebody who is documented. All of those things mean something different. So when we're saying that Celeste Mother's immigration status was questionable, we're not saying that she was undocumented, right? We're not saying that she was illegal. It's possible, though, that she might have been just undocumented, or she might have been documented but concerned about if that status could change by her coming into contact with law enforcement. Hispanics all over the United States are nervous about making contact with the law enforcement. And it doesn't matter whether the person is a Mexican. It doesn't matter whether they are Cuban or Puerto Rican. And Puerto Ricans are United States citizens. Puerto Ricans don't want to have run in with law enforcement right now because of what is happening with immigration. And so it is the belief of some that try to give some grace to the mother, right? That it might have had something to do with her immigration status, why she didn't want to keep making so much contact with the police. Because then, if she gets deported and her child is missing, what chance does she have of finding her child then? None, right? And I think sometimes we need to look at things from that perspective as opposed to just automatically making accusations and tossing accusations and casting dispersions on people. People do not like when somebody casts dispersions on them, but they will be so quick to do it to someone else. They will be so quick without knowing the facts, without knowing the story, just recklessly just vomiting of the mouth, right? I heard one particular content creator just vomiting their mouth. What are they going to get the parents? Assuming that all parents are the same. Like I said, there is a special, just like there's a special circumstance on this murder with this child, there is a special circumstance on the parents when it comes to this child. And it is possible that they wanted to limit contact with law enforcement and were more so trying to do things on their own because they could have been concerned about being deported with their child missing, right? There is communications that were confirmed that there were messages from record executives and things that were during the time that she was missing that were sent to David in an attempt to get her back. So there were efforts to try to get her back. I guess people want to give Angelo grace for how he tried to get his child back by doing it the street way. I think that's kind of how she was trying to do it, but she had a reason to do it that way. She had a real reason to kind of do it like that. Because she could have been faced being deported while her child is missing. Like, that's a scary thing to have happen. You said I'm from Los Angeles. Tons of documented. They don't want exactly no contact, Miller, none, right? And so it's like they made the report. They did go to the police. They made the report all 3 times. They made a report that she was missing. 2 of the times she ended up back. One of the times she ended back was because of an email that was sent by an unknown person. They are not saying who the person is. I have a feeling that it's somebody who went and testified for the grand jury. That's why I feel like that person is not being mentioned who that person is. I have a feeling that they went before the grand jury in this case, and that they are going to be called as a witness, but it was stated that this person did not want to be made known at this time, right? They did not want to be made known to the public at this time. But the second time that she came back, it was due to this email exchange with this person, right? This person is saying that they're afraid of something might happen to them, so they don't want their identity to be revealed. But there were efforts to try to get her back. Now, Miller, this is the part where I think it becomes a little bit ambiguous for me, right? The last time that she went missing, because there is a gap, right, in between the time of her missing and then the time of her death, right? There is a huge gap. So the last time that she went missing was April of 2020, April 24th of 2024. I believe that's what it said. Hold on. I don't know if it was the 24th, but it was April of 2024. That was the last time that she was reported missing. Now, what I'm not sure about is, did she ever go back home, or did she stay with him all of that time? And the reason that I say that is because of how the murder charge came onto him, right? The way that they described it in the press conference was as if he like lured her to his house. But if she was already there, then she would have been living there. So did she go back home and then her mother just didn't report that she was found? Was she staying somewhere else the majority of the time? Did he have her staying at a separate residence? I know he was doing a lot of shows going out of the country and things like that. But I'm not sure if she was always going with him. So my question is like, did he have her at another residence that made them put emphasis on him taking her to his home residence the day of the murder, or the last day she was seen? But I don't know. It seems like there's something ambiguous about that. The other thing it was some ambiguous about was, so they put she was reported missing in April, but the sexual abuse they say occurred from September of 2023 to September of 2024. Now, I'm wondering if that is the case because it says for someone under the age of 13. I'm wondering if when she turned 14, if that changed the dynamic somewhat of the charge. That's what I'm a little confused about. That's another thing I'm not sure about. You said she had phone contact in May of 24. That was the last time they heard from her. Okay. So the last time the family heard from her was May of 2024. Now, I know they said that she traveled with him to a concert that he did in June of 2024. So that's what I was wondering. I was like, okay, well, was she traveling places with him all the rest of that time? But the thing that I found weird was the language that was used the day that they alleged they last saw her alive. It made it sound as if she hadn't been at the house with him, and then he had her come to the house based on the way that the charge is described. So that's what was making me wonder, like, was she with him the whole time? Did he have her at another residence and he stayed at another residence, and then he would have her come over to the other residence? I was slightly confused about that. But the child abuse charges, they are only from September of 2023 to September of 2024. And I'm wondering if that's because, so like I told you guys, David was he's 21 years old now. So he was about 18 at the time of their first meeting. She would have been, I guess if they're saying from September 2023, that's her birthday. That's the month of her birthday. So I guess she would have been 13. So it seems like they only charged him for the child abuse for the 1 year. But Celeste was not unalived until April of 2025. So it seems like there's something missing in that gap. And I'm wondering if it's because they were in some type of statutory guideline or something that he didn't get charged for that additional time. I don't know if it's because it was some type of statutory guideline. I don't know if it's and the reason why I'm thinking it's that is because it's so specific. It's such a clean charge, the way that they charge them, right? The way that the dates. It's from it's from September, which is the year which is the month she turned 13. So from September 2023 to September of 2024. That's the length of the time of this the reporting of this sex abuse, right? So you said April 23 of 2025 was her last known date she was seen arriving at his home in Hollywood. And that's that's the language that got me, Miller, that she arrived at the home. So that's how, if she was living at that home with him, at the home that they are discussing, then I would think that they wouldn't have said arrived at the home. And the way that they are saying it is like he had her come there. Like this was his intention. Like it was a plan. It was premeditated, a lay in the wait. And so like like I say, he preyed on her like an animal preys on its prey. And so it was like he had basically, the language is making it seem like he came there with the specific intent to commit that murder. He lured her there with the specific intent for him to commit the murder that day. But if she was living there, then I would find something like difficult with that story. So that's why I'm wondering, was she living in a whole nother residence? Not saying that he didn't live in that residence with her, but did he lure her to the Hollywood residence in order to commit this crime? That's what I'm wondering, because that's how it sounds according to the language in the document, in the charge document. So those are the two things like that I'm questioning. Like I said, was she living at the Hollywood residence with him, or was she living at a whole separate residence? And so that's why when they discussed her coming to the Hollywood house that day, they're saying he lured her there. And then why wasn't he charged with sexual abuse of her outside of September 2024? And I'm this is just my educated guess. I'm thinking it's because it has something to do with the age falling into some type of statutory window, right? Because there is, when you look at the age, we are looking at this girl and saying, yes, she was 13 years old. More than likely, she was 12 years old when they initially met in Discord online. It might have took her a whole year to actually meet him in person, or maybe he purposefully wanted to wait a whole year to meet her in person. We don't know. We won't know, like I said, until more details do come out, if it comes out about that. But we know that September of 2023, they say that the sexual abuse starts. And so I'm thinking that the evidence is going to lead us to that there was something planned for them to do on her 13th birthday, right? And so we have these clean dates of child sexual abuse taking place between September of 2023 and September of 2024, and then there's no charge of sexual abuse. And so you said, I don't know if it happened that day. It's just the last of it had video evidence of her being alive. They can't find any more proof of her being alive after that day. Yeah, now I'm gonna tell you, because the one thing I picked up, Miller, this is what we do know. We do know that at least by May, we do know that at least by May 25th that she's dead. I'm about to tell you, because the next thing, once as we go along, there is something that lets us know that by May 25th, 2025, she's dead. We at least know that. right? You're right. We don't know if April 23rd she was actually killed, but we do know at least that she's dead somewhere in between that April 23rd and May 25th, right? But like I said, I'm interested to find out why he wasn't charged with sexual abuse charges outside of that date. And like I said, I'm thinking that it has something to do with the age gap. It might fall, and there might be some type of statutory window that omits him from that, because there is just a 6-year difference between them. And so maybe that age of 14 was the hurdle she needed to get over. And that's why the charge of sexual abuse stopped September of 2024, because she would have turned 14, right? So that's something I was curious about. So they said her body was found a day after her birthday. So September of 2025, her body was found. Okay. She was last known to be alive, like Miller said, April of 2023. It was documented. It's documented in the charge document that on or around March 25th, her body was mutilated. So this is when the chopping up of her corpse happens, right? So we don't know if she actually was unalived April the 23rd, but we do know that by or around May 25th, her body was being cut up. So that lets us know she was, around that time, she was no longer alive, right? Um, the the charge document confirmed that she was unalive with a sharp object. Now, this is the thing that had me like start to thinking, right? Because was that the cause? We don't know yet. We don't know if a sharp object was the cause of her death, because we have to wait for the release of the coroner's report. But we know that the charge document says that a sharp object was used. We don't know if that was him stabbing her, or did he begin to commence chopping this girl's body up while she was alive? And that brings me to this nihilist movement thing that is going on the internet with these kids and these young adults that's being started in this gaming community, right? So there's a little bit about David that might not have been shared everywhere, right? And this is why I asked the question, is Dave a nihilist? He referred to himself as being a borderline nihilist. He gave a interview, right? I don't know how long ago, how far back it was, but it couldn't have been past 2023. But he gave this interview where he was being asked by the interviewer about his music and how dark his music is, and where does that come from. And he referred to himself as being a borderline nihilist in this interview, and he said that he sees himself as an anime character. So everybody know, like in these kids, when they are in these Discord rooms, like I said, they are playing Minecraft, Fortnite, Roblox, all of these different games where they are able to create all of these different avatars for themselves. They're able to make themselves whoever they want to be. It's all types of anime type games and characters that are on with all of these other games that they are playing online too. And so David was saying that he sees himself as an anime character in this interview. And he said that he was thinking about writing a comic series that it has a specific form, right? And it's called manga. And manga is like this Japanese type of anime that it requires the reader to be able to read the anime from right to left. right? And it doesn't matter whether or not it's in Japanese or English, it's still going to have the same form. So even to try to keep it true to form, they want to write it in Japanese, but it, there are people now, because of how popular anime is amongst all of the youth, there is manga that is being written in English. But it was this manga that he was creating, and he was talking to this interviewer about, and he was saying that he had this alter ego character, right? That he created for himself. And this is the character that he was going to highlight in the manga. And that the character was a detective. And the detective had an alter ego. And what would happen is that the detective would be trying to solve the crime, when in all actuality, the detective's alter ego is the one who committed the crime. And so he was saying that his music is a representation of that. Like, his music is a way for him to live out that character, right? In David's music videos, you have seen him put what seems to be dead bodies in a trunk. There have been videos where he has cut off arms. There have been videos where he talks about bloody sandals. All of these things are represented in his music, right? And so when I asked the question, is he a nihilist? They have not gotten hardcore proof that David was connected to the 764 extremist group, right? But it is heavily questioned his connection to this particular extremist group. Now, another thing I want to highlight, which that just is caution, right? So David, he was born in Queens, right? At the age of 13, he moved to Houston, Texas. And then he, of course, once he becomes famous, he moves to California. His parents were living in Texas, though, still. But David was homeschooled as a kid. He did not go to traditional school like most kids do. And the homeschool curriculum that they used was a Christian curriculum, right? And so the idea of him then taking on this nihilistic form seemed bizarre to people, right? But I happen to think that it's because of his isolation from being homeschooled, only having contact online. These are the type of communities that he comes in contact with. A lot of these people that became part of the 764 network, they had experienced some type of bullying or some type of social awkwardness in their own life. You said, girl, that's some weird ass stuff, Glad. Exactly. Yeah, Miller, exactly. Like, it's weird. But the thing that's making me wonder, Miller, if he possibly could have started to dismember this girl while she was still alive, is because these are the things that the people in that group do. In that 764 cult, they encourage the kids to do that. They get themselves, like I said, they groom the kids by getting in good with them, starting online relationships, whether it be romantic relationships or just platonic relationships, but putting themselves in a situation where they have some type of influence, where they can start to talk to each other about their secrets and all of these different things. And then the day comes when they require that child to do something extreme. And they threaten them that if they don't do this extreme thing, that then they're going to expose them, that they are going to ruin their life. They will go as far as to say, we will find you. We will kill your parents. We will kill your sister. We will kill your dog. We will do all of these different things. So these groups online, they mutilate animals. They do self-harm to themselves. in some instances, they have even had them go commit a crime, a murder. And they want them to video it. And as I said yesterday, the 764 group started with this boy, Bradley Cadenhead. And he was from Stephenville, Texas. He was arrested at the age of 17 and indicted. And he is serving 80 years in prison because of his online activity. He was charged with racketeering. These kids in this group have been charged with all kinds of crazy ass shit. It's a boy in Halethorpe, Maryland, right here. So every time when I talk to you guys and I tell y'all like Baltimore is way bigger than what people think, and I talk to you about things being broken down like in local. So what some people might not consider it Baltimore, but Halethorpe is Baltimore. It's just a local area in Baltimore, right? So, but Halethorpe, this boy Eric Madison, he is from right here, Halethorpe, Maryland. He was arrested by the FBI under the 764 call umbrella. He was 20 years old at the time of his arrest, but he was arrested for the possession of child pornography. This is what they ended up. They had got like 40 hits of child pornography on his computer. And so he was arrested for that. You had another two guys, Leon, and I can't say his last name. He is a United States citizen, but he was living in Greece at the time of his arrest. And then Prasen Nepal, he was 20. So Leon was 21. And then Prasen Nepal was 20. They were charged. This is what they were charged with. Prasen Nepal was in North Carolina. Listen to this charge. They were charged with corruption and exploitation of a vulnerable population, right? Seeking to destroy society through corruption and exploitation of a vulnerable population, including minors. This is what these two boys were charged with. The one that was arrested in Greece, but is a United States citizen, and then the other one was here in North Carolina. Then you have another Dong Hwan Kim. He was 27 years old. He was charged with sexual exploitation, right? So they use sexually explicit material in order to get these kids to do this. And then listen to this, because this is something else that I had talked about a few months back. So it might not be all the time that the kid is sending them any explicit material, right? Because now we have AI. So AI can create the material. This is what they mean when they tell them that they will ruin them. Because then they can create sexually explicit images of the kid based on the child sharing with them or whatever. And it doesn't matter whether or not, because some people can't tell if the image is real or not. And so the child then becomes fearful and starts to do things that they want them to do. It was one account that I was hearing them talk about with Bradley Cadenhead, right? He like I said, he was the one that the cult was labeled after, the 764 network. They called it the network, but it's a cult. It's a gore cult, they call it a gore cult, right? And so in this gore cult, they make these edgelords, and the edgelord has to be they are in like a rivalry for who can be more violent, who can have more visceral and sensationalized content, right? And these kids have a very flat effect, like they don't even have any emotion when they see this stuff being done. It's almost a contest to see who could be the most non-affected by seeing this type of content, right? And so it was one particular case where Bradley had told a kid that they were going to have to unalive the guinea pig, their guinea pig, right? And so they started off with having the kid like just torture the guinea pig, like different stabbings, different. Then they wanted him to cut off the head of the guinea. I know this is very graphic, but I just need y'all to understand like how bad this is, right? Um, they instructed him to cut off the head of the guinea pig. The child was having a difficult time trying to cut the head. They instructed the child to bite the head off of the guinea pig. And this is all of the things that they are doing for content on Discord, on Patreon, on Twitch, on all of these social. This is stuff that is happening in chat rooms where kids are playing games. They are being groomed. They are being cyber stalked. They are being what's the other word? Harassed. Basically, like the same way a stranger would follow a child in person. They do all of this in order to get them to do this, and they don't have to. Even if the child doesn't send them any sexual explicit pictures of themselves, AI can help them to generate those pictures. They can threaten the child that they will put those pictures out of them. Once that's out there, the child doesn't want to experience that type of embarrassment. And this is what gets the child to do what they are told to do. And so the question came behind David, because when the question came, was David ever a part of this 764 group or some similar group, right? Was he groomed by some similar group to 764? Because there are lots of groups of this nature on the internet. It's not just 764. Now, what they said is that they said 764 is like the fastest growing. They are saying that the FBI is saying 764 is the fastest growing terrorist organization. It is the biggest terroristic threat. This type of extremist group is the biggest type of threat, is what they're saying. And so now they've put more manpower into putting more agents on this type of investigations, because it's happening so prevalent across the internet, and they're so young. But when I heard yesterday that it said that when it described the crime as a lay in the wait, right? And then it's saying that there was at first we didn't know. In the press conference, they weren't really clear. Did David actually do the dismemberment of the body? But then we found out in the charge document that they are certain that he did that as well. So he didn't just molest her. He did not just murder her. He also mutilated her. We don't know to what extent that means. We don't know if he stabbed her with some type of sharp object and she passed away and then he started to mutilate her, or if he started to do it while she was still alive. The other thing is that in the murder charge, it was saying that for profit, right? This was for some type of financial gain. And what most people interpreted that to mean is that somehow they felt like Celeste was about to tell on him, and because he might have been negotiating some type of deal at the time, that she might have been aware, her exposing him may have jeopardized that deal. And so did he feel like he needed to unalive her for that reason? I think that's a possibility. But I think another possibility could be, was what he did to her being sold somewhere on the black market? That's something that has popped into my mind. Is it possible that what he did to her body was somehow going to be disseminated somewhere on the black market? Because these individuals in this 764 cult, it is the kind of content that they disseminate amongst each other. They have content that looks like this. Content, and this, and like I said, I know it's being very graphic, but I'm saying this so that people can know, like, what to look for and what to be paying attention to what their kids might be having access to, right? There is content of people stepping on the head of a infant. Like I said, all types of self-mutilation, murders, all of this type of stuff. This is some of the things that they found when they went to go and arrest Bradley Cadenhead over in Stephenville, Texas. This is some of the content they found on his computer. And so I know everybody immediately was thinking, okay, maybe it had something to do with a business deal, and it might be that. It might just be that simple, right? But now I'm wondering, is it something much more sinister than that makes it rise to the level of the type of murder that they want to go after him and possibly give him the death penalty for? Because was he creating gore content to be disseminated on the dark web? That would be for profit. That is a very profitable market. And I'm going to sum this all up to say, this is the reason that both state and federal law enforcement bodies take things that are happening to minors seriously. They do not play with it, because this is a real world where these things are happening. And I know that, us as regular, ordinary, everyday people, we don't even fathom or think that this kind of thing is taking place, right? We wouldn't even imagine some of this stuff that is being discussed and talked about. But it is happening, and it is happening amongst some of the youngest of us. This boy, Bradley Caden who started the 764 extremist group, he was 15 when he started this group. This is the type of content they found when they went to go arrest him. They are finding this, and just because he got arrested, it didn't stop. The group is still, it is over. They have made over 250 arrests associated with this group and are still investigating. So I wanted to come to talk to you guys about that, and I wanted to posit that and keep that in mind, because we don't know how gruesome this actually may have, we are hearing it. It sounds gory already, just listening to it. But this may be something even far more sinister than what we understand. This boy was imagining writing a comic series where he was a detective that was solving his own murders he was committing. Many of his music videos depicted some of the things that we are seeing in this crime. And so I can't help but to think, when they are asking when they input the financial gain part, is it the obvious thing that he wants to maintain his stardom, that she's going to reveal that he had been sexually molesting her, and he was worried about that, and so this is why he unalives her and then commences to dismember her body? Or did he dismember her for a more sinister purpose? It's already gory, but was the purpose more sinister? Was it to appeal to a market, an underground market, where this type of material is paid top dollar to get? That's all I wanted to bring to y'all today. I hope that y'all had a informative time. I don't want to say a good time because of what we're talking about, but I hope you all have had an informative time here talking to me today. I will be regrouping. I'm always listening and doing some more research. I'm listening to this podcast on Spotify right now about the 764 group, and I'm looking into another group, online group that just emerged that they just found too. And so I've been looking into that. But as more things unfold, I'm sure like in the next couple of days or so, hopefully within to the next week or two, we are gonna be able to see the coroner's report to get more details. Hopefully in the preliminary hearing, we'll get some insight as to what was the financial gain piece of this. But I just wanted to expand our thinking a little bit more and have us think outside of the box about something that none of us would ever be thinking about when they are talking about financial gain. The financial gain man had nothing to do with his music at all. It may have been appealed to another market where you can make more money than any entertainer could ever make, because these people circulate and pay top dollar for this type of content. On that note, y'all have a good day. Thank y'all for talking with me today. Queen Keish, Miller, Purple, Michelle, I think you came. Did you come in today, Michelle? I think you did at the beginning. Hold on. Let me just one pat. Um, Michelle, you didn't come in, but you must have been on my mind. So I'm gonna say your name too. Thank you all for coming in and talking to me today. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, suggestions, please let me know. You can put it in the comments and I'll respond to you, and I'll be back with you guys soon. Peace.